Well, we continue this month the theme of learning and embodying science of mind principles. And this is the third Sunday in the month. We've been covering the thing itself, the way it works. Today is what it does. And when we say it, sounds impersonal. It's really quite personal, because the love of God couldn't be more personal. It is the law of God that is impersonal. And we learn about both. The first Sunday of this teaching, we remembered that there is one infinite mind. It is the mind of God. It is everywhere present. It underlies all activities. It's involved in its creation. In fact, all creation, all created beings have come from this one life. It's the only life there is to have or to be. And this life is the life of each one of us. And then we found that the way it works is through us, that we're required. We're individualized manifestations of this one beautiful life. And as a result, we have the ability to use the same creative process to bring things into our lives and into our world. And we can use the law of mind to co-create wonderful opportunities and beautiful conditions and experiences for ourselves and for others, and ultimately for the greater community, which we call our world. And so the law is used, directed, once we become very, very involved with the love of God. And as Ernest Holmes said, we court the presence, then we direct the law. And courting the presence is simply going within deeply, experiencing our meditation, deepening our connection to the living spirit of all good, drinking from the living waters of spirit which live right within us all. It's not far off. It's not somewhere far away. It's right here, closer than hands and breath, nearer than breathing. So today we're talking about what it does, how this beautiful presence acts in and through us, and how the law responds to our specific choices, our decisions. We are decision makers, we are choice makers, and we are co-creators with the infinite. Now that's a wonderful thing to put on your resume. I am a co-creator with the infinite. As Ernest Holmes says, the universe is impersonal. It gives to all. It is no respecter of persons. It values each alike. Its nature is to impart, and ours is to receive. And so one of the things we get to learn to do is to become more generous receivers. We have learned about being generous givers. We need to learn about becoming generous receivers, allowing this beautiful life to flow through us, allowing the co-creative activities to be our wonderful expression of life. We realize that we have more power available to us than we might have known, because it's not our power of ourselves. It's the power of God within us, asking that we utilize it appropriately. Because we've seen the way individuals and groups of people have misused the law, haven't we, in the world? It's very easy to see that. It is less easy to see beyond that, but that is our job to do, to see beyond what appears to be, and Jesus taught us that very clearly. Do not judge by appearances, but judge righteous judgment. Come on, all you Bible scholars. Judge righteous judgment. That's the right use, righteous, the right use of mind. The mind of God individualizes itself in our minds. And so we are those transmitters of new ideas, greater intentions. We are necessary instruments through which Spirit expresses. As Ernest Holmes said, the divine incarnation is inherent in our nature. What a beautiful awareness Each of us is an incarnation of the living presence of God. It's not something far away, up in the sky, some great extra human being that we have to appease or plead to or be good for. There's a loving presence right where we are. It's the Spirit of God itself. There's a wonderful law that works through all creation, including working through our own subjective mind, because we understand that just as there is the universal conscious mind that makes decisions, chooses, and there shall be planets and rivers and mountains, and animals and people, etc., that same mind is ours to use. We utilize the conscious mind of the infinite when we make a choice. And then there's the great subconscious mind of God, where the law of mind is at work. And that infinite intelligence within the subjective nature of mind knows exactly how to bring things into being. It works within our own use of subjective mind as well. The infinite knowingness, says Ernest Holmes, becomes our wisdom only in such degree as we embody its intelligence. We are intelligent beings, and sometimes acting how? Unintelligently. Which is why the conditions in the world show up as they do. We didn't do all that. Well, we might have contributed in some minor way. But the thing is, the important part is that we become aware that we are never separated from this divine source. That it is us, we are it, we cannot be outside of the life of God. But we do have spiritual amnesia sometimes, don't we? We forget who we are, and we think we're merely human. We're having a wonderful human experience. Don't you love it? I like the human experience. But I like it better when I remember that it is spirit within us having that beautiful experience. Excuse me. There was a frog. I kissed it. It turned into a prince, and now it's gone. All right. As our unity with this mind is clearly established, we become open to this infinite intelligence and all the great gifts that the universe has to give us. Our lives are never meant to be lived in boredom or just enough or scraping by. That was never the divine intention for us. We're here to thrive and to help each other thrive. And so the great gifts of the universe are here. And as Emerson said, we must take our bloated nothingness out of the paths of the divine circuitry. And that bloated nothingness is when we get too involved in our own personal ego. And we think, I can do this by self, as my 2-year-old son said, who is much older than that now, much, much older. We don't do anything by ourselves alone. You can't tell your blood to continue to flow through your body when you're sleeping. You can't tell your lungs how to continue to breathe or your heart continue to beat, because there's an infinite intelligence within us all that knows exactly how to do that. Why don't we trust this intelligence to do the other things that we're here to do in our lives? It's wonderful that there are a lot of just automatic activities taking place within us all the time. The law itself is automatic. It is dependable. It responds to us according to our belief. So we have this great power that we use, and we must move beyond that separate self, ego, or the belief in it. We need the ego. We need it as a strong instrument through which spirit can express, because the ego needs to become transparent so that spirit can express through it. Everything that we have developed mentally and emotionally and physically in our lives is important. And now we need to surrender a little bit and let spirit have its way with us. I love that. I love my morning meditations. I love that sense of complete abandonment of the human self to the divine that has so much to share, so much to give to me, and allow me then to give those gifts to others. I want to embrace and to become a greater instrument of the divine. God's everywhere and in everything. Nature herself is the body of God, says Ernest Holmes. Many years ago, in my very first church in Alamo, California, I was teaching a class, and in that class was a lovely young woman who was a park, wore the little uniform. Ranger. She was a ranger, thank you. Not a Power Ranger, but a park ranger. She was powerful. And she loved her work. She was up in the hills in Los Trampas Ridge, just above where I lived. And she would walk on the trails, and she would take care of everything up there. And she was telling us in class one night, she still had her little park ranger uniform on. She was telling us about having met a snake on the path, and that the two of them, she just was able to behold the wonderful life within him. Or her. I don't think you can tell with a snake, but it doesn't matter. She was beholding the life in this snake, and it was looking at her, and the two of them had this moment. And then the snake went off, and she continued along. And she said everything was just so beautiful. We had been learning about the nature of the divine. We knew that there is this infinite mind with a divine intelligence that expresses itself in the world and becomes the body of God. She said to the class, "You know what I realized when I was up there today?" She said, "I said it out loud, in fact. God, you've got a great body." And God has a great body. It's a beautiful emanation, a wonderful expression of those divine ideas that have been manifest as Yosemite and the Grand Canyon and the Grand Tetons and all the beautiful places that we have to enjoy here. It's a gift. These gifts just keep on giving, and we want to be the recipients of them and become more generous receivers. The love of God is unconditional, and it's forever giving of itself. We want to feel and experience this love very personally, to touch into it and allow it to touch into us. And we want to set our intentions that all beings experience it. What we want for ourselves, we want for all sentient beings. Tomorrow's message that goes out to the people who sign up for my daily inspiration that's on Constant Contact is about Martin Luther King. What a great example of somebody who was so connected with that loving presence and wanted justice and love and compassion and possibility and goodness for everybody. And so I'm going to read to you what some of you are going to be reading in your mailbox tomorrow morning. And if you'd like to sign up for my daily messages Monday through Friday, just do that. They're free. Martin Luther King Jr. had a dream, and although it has not yet been fulfilled, we are coming closer to the reality of this dream, that little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. In our community and our larger neighborhood, this dream has definitely come true, but in so many other areas, it may seem like something of a nightmare. What can we do to honor all people, not only accepting but celebrating differences? Our wide variety of ethnicities, faith traditions, social strata, gender and gender identification, political views, levels of education, and belief systems need not pose a challenge to our respect for one another. We are one family of humanity, and our unity underlies all those surface differences. So let's delight in the unique and remarkable ways in which we show up in the world. In the same I Have a Dream speech that Dr. King delivered in 1963, he also said passionately, "Now is the time to make justice a reality for all God's children." 58 years later, we find ourselves having made progress, yet not nearly enough. A change in consciousness can be slower than we would like, when millions of people are involved. So we simply continue to do our personal part and trust that others join us. As Harvard professor Dr. Cornel West wisely explained, justice is what love looks like in public. And I've shared an affirmation. My heart is open to accept, respect, and admire all people, and my mind clearly acknowledges our oneness, manifesting as unity in multiplicity. Justice is what love looks like in public. In the Beatitudes, we read, "The pure in heart shall see God." I remember memorizing those in Sunday school. Ours is now Fun Day school. And I remember coming home and telling my mother, I've memorized the beauty tides. What it looked like to me. The pure in heart shall see God. And the pure in heart are simply those who are able to see beyond the conditions, to experience the love of God within everything and everyone and every condition, and call forth the gifts that are there for us. Call forth. There's more than lessons that we learn here on earth. There are gifts that we get to receive. And as soon as we establish within our minds that we are ready to call forth the gifts that are there for us, no matter what it might look or feel like in the moment, the better we will experience all of the good that is here for us to experience and to share. So we're all part of a progressive spiritual evolution. We're all part of this evolution. And the more we discover who we truly are and live from our authentic self and love unconditionally as God loves unconditionally, the more the world will be lifted to the place that we can really say we are doing our part to bring heaven to earth. Don't you want to live more in heaven right here on earth? So the law of God is dependable, and it responds to our creative, mental, and spiritual work. Ernest Holmes says, infinite spirit operates through infinite and immutable law. Love points the way, law makes the way possible. So we continue to envision a more just, a more loving, a more compassionate, and a more creative world. And something within us knows what is right and appropriate. Something always knows. We don't have to ask a lot of people what's the right thing to do here. We simply inquire within, as the sign says in the store window. Inquire within. We all know what's the best. And we inquire and we ask, what is the highest good for myself and for others in my world? And that's where we focus our attention. The answers are given freely and easily because infinite mind and that infinite heart of God are right where we are and ready to guide us and to nurture and lead us into those paths that are for our greatest good. So we continually speak our words for definite good for ourselves and others. And how we do this, it's called affirmative prayer or spiritual mind treatment. That's what we learn to do. This is what our practitioners do with us and for us. This is what we utilize. It's a beautiful gift that Ernest Holmes taught us, because affirmative prayer is simply coming into the presence of God's life and love. Acknowledging that we are one with it and can never be separate from it. And from that place of this divine knowing, speaking our word of truth, affirming that which we are ready to experience in our lives and in the world. And then we become so open to receiving that good after we have spoken it intellectually. We open our hearts to receive that good by giving thanks in advance. Jesus gave thanks in advance when he prayed. Give thanks in advance. And then we release that word of truth we have spoken to the infinite, dependable, accurate, wonderful law of mind, which knows how to bring it into being. That's affirmative prayer. That's what we do here. That's what we teach here. That's what changes our lives and changes the greater community for the better as we maintain our focus on that which is true, that which is beautiful, that which is of good report. And then when we do it together as a community, something powerful takes place. It's not like there's more power when there's more people, but I think there's a greater opening to the inflow and outflow of spirit when we're all together with our hearts open, praying together for a different experience in our lives and in the world. Spiritual mind treatment. We teach it, we utilize it. Our practitioners are happy to share with you more about it. We even have printouts you can take home to try it for yourself. Because we don't beg. Why would we have to beg when everything's already been given? It's already given in mind. It's already ours for the receiving. So we just say thank you. But we get very clear about what it is that we wish to bring into our world. More peace, more abundance, more love, maybe something specific like a car. That comes through prayer as well. Anything and everything that we need, we continue to speak our word of truth for ourselves, for good, and for others. We deepen our faith. We expand our mold of receptivity and let Spirit pour itself through us. So Ernest Holmes says, let us restate our principle. We are surrounded by an infinite possibility. It is goodness, life, law, and reason. In expressing itself through us, it becomes more fully conscious of its own being. What a wonderful realization. God also needs us to express itself in this world. You're here very much on purpose. Say with me, if you would, there is a power for good in the universe. It is greater than I am. It is mine to use. I say yes to its action through me. And so, my beloveds, beginneth our lesson. Thank you.